Pecha Kucha 283 revisiting V for Vendetta. So after rereading The Killing Joke, I thought, you know what? Since I'm reading some Alan Moore, let's read some more. So I went back to V for Vendetta. And I'm probably going to forget to say it at the end, so let's say it now. This is a fantastic book. If you are alive, read it. If you've already read it, reread it. I'm constantly surprised and delighted by the things that I'd forgotten or the things that I'd never picked up on the first time. This is a book. This is this should be regarded as not a comic book, but as literature. Alan Moore and David Lloyd collaborating together have produced what I would call a political book that is masquerading as a superhero book. It's based in Britain, a totalitarian dystopian future Britain after an atomic war, and the book starts with the two main characters, one of them a 16-year-old girl called Evie, trying to trick in Westminster when she meets V, the man dressed as Guy Fawkes, who blows up the Houses of Parliament and is going to try and start a revolution, remind people what it means to live, to be in charge of their own lives. The country is run by an organization that took over after an atomic war. They are totalitarian in nature, and they are using a series of totalitarian control things to keep control. V undermines these over the course of the book, and you get to see him do it. He's a very theatrical-minded character. He has a monologue with a statue before blowing it up. There is no audience. Why does he do this? Because theatricality is what he's about. This is a world where people do what they must because everybody has to sacrifice because the world ended. But people have sacrificed freedom and they need to reclaim it. And he recovered his freedom and wants to share this with the world. This is a story. This is a book of characters. The police officer who's investigating V as he dismantles the government, mostly by killing the people in charge for various reasons. The story, his journey is fascinating. A lot of the characters, the problems they're going through as normal human beings, kind of spiral into each other. This instant where a policeman points an unloaded gun at V and then finds out when he pulls the trigger it's unloaded. This is how the book is. It's a series of like causal events that don't seem to have any impact until they become extremely impactful. And there's an issue of this book that is the main character singing a song about what's going on in the book with the sheet music interdisposed on the things. This is death for someone trying to read this, but this just shows that Alan Moore is prepared to commit to what he's doing 100%. Another couple of the characters, Evie, who is as important to the plot as V, is abandoned halfway through the book. The guy who pulled the unloaded gun and got killed, his wife is widowed but is not eligible for a pension. Both of these characters have to survive a world that doesn't have a place for them in it, right up until Evie ends up in jail for being discovered as an accomplice to a man who is trying to topple the government and ends up in a very grim situation. I won't talk about the events of the book anymore. I don't want to spoil anything. This is something to truly cherish and enjoy. It's for people who don't turn off the news, as David Lloyd said at the start of the book in a little monologue. I could go on forever. V for Vendetta. I read it for free in a public library. I strongly suspect you do the same. And then buy a copy like I did. So for my weekly bison, I decided to do what I did last week and go back and see if I could improve an old one. I was never happy with the face. I like the pose for this one, but I was like, yeah, I stopped a little bit too soon. I don't care the background's unfinished, it's the face. So what I did is I decided, let's just redraw from scratch bison, specifically focusing on the face, and I'm much happier with how it looks now. And then I just thought, well, let's keep going forward from this position and see if I can, tighten everything up using this new basic line drawing as the grounds for this. I did discover while working using vector lines mostly for the background that I'm encountering technical problems with the use of my Cintiq Clip Studio Paint and Windows 11. I've learned that these things, it's the way they talk to each other. There's not a lot I can really do if there's no troubleshooting by each of the companies in charge of the components. In this version of this Bison picture, I did try to spend a little bit more time fleshing out the background, adding one of those statues from the Street Fighter 2 background this is based on. Not too accurate, not too bothered. And then I've ended up colouring it because I kind of gassed out on the background. The colouring is worse in this version, but the line work is better. I mean, at least the faces. For me, it's a victory, but ultimately I don't think I've improved upon it. Just like it was a pet peeve of mine that the face was the way it was. I also, behind the scenes, made a breakthrough with my book I was working on, this 200-page manga I want to try and get done by the end of the year. I finished the plot synopsis. Now I'm going to do a thumbnail storyboard of the whole thing, see how it feels, and from there I can start working on character concepts and just sealing the deal. I also, in the last couple of weeks, learned a great deal about Ken Shamrock, former professional wrestler and MMA legend, his personal life, especially his childhood. I've got a lot of respect for him, having overcome all the things he's overcome. Mostly a terrible fucking childhood. He did an interview with Stone Cold that I heard, and I just thought, I just want to say, good, cool dude. And I'm still watching Japanese Spider-Man, and I've never been more convinced that they're trying to get the show cancelled. In the latest episode I've seen, one of the bad guys just magically guesses Spider-Man's real identity. He tells the other bad guys, they scoff in his face. He spends the next 20 minutes of the episode coming up with the most insanely contrived ways to prove that Takuya Yamashiro, who is Spider-Man, and fails miserably. It makes no sense. I don't know what the fuck is going on. And this has happened for several episodes. I know it's like a Saturday morning kids show, but it's so egregious and so tone deaf across the board sometimes. I can't believe that they're not trying to get pulled, or they haven't already been told the show is cancelled or something. I love it. This show is so bad, I can't recommend it enough, but it's not really for humans to watch. It's like the opposite of V for Vendetta. Everyone should consume V for Vendetta. It's fantastic. Nobody in the history of the world ever needed to watch this Japanese Spider-Man TV show. And that's all I have to say about that. So, that's the end of Pecha Kucha 283, and I will see you next time.